This edition of MacVoices is supported by Kolide. Kolide sends employees important, timely, and relevant security recommendations for their Linux, Mac, and Windows devices right inside Slack. Meet compliance objectives in a remote-first world without resorting to rigid device management. Try Kolide for 14 days free. Visit kolide.com/MacVoices to sign up today. That's KOLIDE.com/MacVoices. Enter your email unprompted to receive your free Kolide gift bundle after trial activation. Kolide.com/MacVoices. MacVoices is in Las Vegas for NAB. I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, the first people I saw through the door were some friendly faces, and I decided to stop right here. We have Rob and Rob from Libsyn here to talk about what's going on with Libsyn and podcasting. And under the heading of full disclosure, I am a Libsyn client. I'm a very happy Libsyn client, so you should be too. Rob, great to see you.
Chuck, great seeing you again. It's nice to be back in face-to-face.
Yeah, it feels kind of good. It feels kind of good. And Rob, nice to meet you for the first time.
Nice to meet you too. I appreciate you coming by.
Well, I appreciate you guys taking the time because we're hoping for a busy show. It looks like it's doing pretty well so far. We haven't been together for over 2 years, so I think the proper question is, what's new?
Well, since it would be 3 years ago, NAB would have been the last one, and since then we've acquired a couple companies. So AdvertiseCast, PAR, which is Podcast Ad Reps, and PodGo are 3 new companies that we've brought in. We also acquired Glow.fm and Auxbus, which is now our Libsyn studio. So we've got quite a few things that are new, but AdvertiseCast and the advertising side of things is really the big addition to the company in the last 3 years.
Okay, so I assume AdvertiseCast is something that helps podcasters monetize.
Helps podcasters monetize, and if you want to advertise on podcasts, we can do that as well. So if you're a business looking to get advertising out there, AdvertiseCast can help you get out to the 2,500 plus podcasts that we're working with. We work with, in the last 12 months, over 740 different advertisers and 2,500 different podcasters. So we can help you either way.
So you're working both sides of the street.
We are. And a lot of podcasters are looking to get word out. How do you grow your show if you're a podcaster? One of the ways is to advertise on other podcasts. So we have quite a few podcasters that are doing that.
I've noticed that. I mean, some of them are coming from networks where they've created their own and then they cross-promote within the network. Others are just flat out, have nothing to do, well, have something to do maybe with the podcast you're listening to, but trying to pull in new listeners.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes in those networks where they're cross-promoting, it works if they're all like, say, Trek.fm and they're all Trek podcasts. But some of these networks, you have a knitting podcast that's cross-promoting on a MMA podcast. I'm like, maybe that doesn't work so well. So maybe you want to kind of focus your advertising, your promotion onto podcasts that are other knitting podcasts if you're a knitting podcast.
I don't know. Somebody has to make those outfits that the MMA people wear. Rob, I've known him for 100 years, but I know you. What's your function at Libsyn?
Well, I do a lot of the same type of work that Rob does, is work with podcasters, work with platforms, and work with the distribution side of podcasting. But here, for me, most recently, is starting to work more with shows on the advertising side. We're working in partnership with the AdvertiseCast team and to drive monetization, like you guys were just talking about, monetization to podcasters more and more, and that's what we're working towards trying to build.
Yeah, monetization is a big thing because, unfortunately, Libsyn makes it about as inexpensive as possible, but there still are expenses associated with it.
The most expensive part of podcasting isn't the hosting. It's the time and the equipment that you use. I mean, the time itself is the biggest expense. People sometimes undervalue that.
And I haven't spent any money on equipment.
No, you have all the toys. You have all the toys.
I don't know about all the toys, but none of us get into this without having a little bit of gear lust.
Yeah, I mean, that's why a lot of podcasters get into it as a hobby. And, golf's a hobby, and it's not cheap for the equipment in golf, and podcasting equipment isn't cheap either.
You're talking my language when you talk that. So, one thing, though, that from day one, I mean, and I've been a Libsyn customer since the first podcast I did. So I'm kind of curious, how affordable do you make it right now? Because I know you've introduced new services, new tiers. I think it's still extremely affordable, but I think you guys have even done more than when I started.
Our lowest tier on the Libsyn.com side is $5 account. And so you can start at $5 account, but a lot of people go with the $20 account because that'll give you advanced stats, so you know geographically where your audience is coming from and a few other features. And it's based on how much you're going to upload in a given month. But the $20 account really is the way that most people go with. This is where we see the majority of our users. someone ducking in there.
It's amazing how that happens. It's just like, can't you see?
But really, for $20 a month, 3 cups of Starbucks coffee, you can be podcasting.
That's great. Now, so I sign up for whatever plan, and not only are you hosting, but I can also have you host my website for the show.
Right. You get a website with Libsyn. If you want to see one, you can go to like thefeed.libsyn.com. That's our Libsyn's official podcast. We have a webpage there. You can go to podcast411.com, my own personal one. That's will take you to the website you get with Libsyn. And you can modify it to make it look for your brand how you want it. And it's real easy. You don't have to know WordPress or any of those things. But then again, if you do want to work with WordPress, we have Pair.com is another company we've acquired that we do have WordPress sites.
See, I knew there was stuff I didn't know, and I did not know that.
Yeah, so we've got a few different companies. So Pair, Pair.com, if you want to do some WordPress hosting.
Rob, what advice would you give to somebody starting out, especially from the monetization standpoint? What should the expectations be? What tips could you give to help them get started off and maybe offset their cost?
Well, yeah, I think, if you're just starting out, I think the thing to think about is trying to build an audience first. Just really work on your content, work on what you're trying to produce to be able to build an audience, because advertising is built on audience. So you need to have listeners to be able to offer to an advertiser. So that's the key thing, is to really think about what you're doing with your show and really get focused on creating a show that's interesting and makes connections with audience. And then once you start doing that, then you can start thinking about monetization and doing those type of activities. Now, Libsyn does have some pathways to do advertising that doesn't require a huge audience. But we also have pathways for shows that are successful that have large audiences. And those shows typically make more money because they have bigger audiences. So, yeah.
Yeah, that was where our Glow.fm acquisition came in, which is premium. So, that is, if you're a small niche podcast and you're getting 100, 150 downloads an episode, but you have a really active audience, it's going to be hard to monetize with advertising. So that's where premium comes in. So Glow.fm, but we also have large, Dan Carlin uses Glow.fm, so the largest podcast on a per episode basis.
Okay. So, in other words, you're a one-stop shop for podcasting. Anybody who's either in it or wants to get into it.
Hosting, distribution, monetization, advertising. Yep.
One of the things a feature I use, that if I have a particularly heavy month with a lot of shows or a lot of longer shows, like probably this month will be, I can up my quota for a month and then drop it back to something that is more consistent with what I usually do. And I find that flexibility something that I don't run into other places.
Yeah, we want to make it easy for you to do what you need to do. We don't want to make you sign up for a 12-month agreement and then you wind up having this account for 11 months. That doesn't make any sense.
Perfect. So, of course, the website, I have no idea what it is
Libsyn.com. It stands for Liberated Syndication, the most mispronounced word. We're not Lisbon. We're not Lisbon. People always say Lisbon or Libsync. Nope. It's Libsyn, which stands for Liberated Syndication, and that's just our philosophy. We want to make it available for anybody to podcast.
Excellent. Great to see you. Thank you so much.
Chuck, it is great seeing you again for multiple reasons, but personally, it's great seeing you.
Thank you. Rob, great to see you.
Yeah, it's great seeing you, and thank you. Enjoy the show.
Yeah. I definitely will. I think I'll be tired by the end of it, but that's sort of the game. Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is MacVoices in Las Vegas for NAB. Thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you MacVoices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CashFly at cashfly.com.